I know Michael is online. He's going to give us his presentation online, and I'll briefly go through his bio. Michael is a co-founder and the manager partner of the OneBio venture studio in Africa, focused on biotech investor and company builder. It was after attending Fichardt University's Global Solutions program that Michael had to realize that the global economy was about to be fundamentally transformed through the use of biology and technology. It was at this time that the fellow co-founder, Dr. Nick Walker, set up a OneBio to help African companies to be part of the future. Michael's background is in finance and banking, where he has a master's in accounts from the IE Business School. Of course, he has also a bachelor's in commerce at the University of Cape Town, a postgraduate diploma in sustainability from Stellenbosch University, and a diploma in exponential technologies from Synbio University. This is the person we're really waiting for, really give us his perspective when it comes to digging into the coffers of different governments to fund the world of science. So join me to welcome Michael. Michael, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi everyone.
Oh, okay.
Will you be sharing, bringing the slides up? How do we manage the slides?
Michael, your slides are already with us here. Our technical team will help us to do that. And then...
okay, fantastic.
Just as you say, I think you can see that. You can
proceed. Okay, great. So I will just let you know when I want to change the slide. So hi everyone, it's an honor to be at this conference, and well done to the organizers. This is such an important part of building out the Synbio and biotech ecosystem on the African continent in general. So it's really a fantastic initiative. As the introduction said, I am a co-founder and managing partner of OneBio Venture Studio. We're a venture capital fund based in Cape Town in South Africa, with a mandate to invest in Synbio and also biotech startups across the African continent. Next slide, please. So yeah, as I say, we turn life science into business. We provide funding, networks, and expertise to build commercially sustainable biotech and Synbio businesses. Next slide, please. So what I thought I would do is the first part of our presentation, I'm going to go into the macro perspective. Where do we sit right now as far as biotech and Synbio? And I think this is a great quote to start with. This is obviously Steve Jobs, and in 2001, he was quoted as saying, I think the biggest innovations of the 20th century will sit at the intersection of biology and technology. A new era is beginning. Next slide, please. So why is this the case? Well, biotechnology really is an information technology. Next slide, please. And there are three macro trends that have put us in the place in history where we really are living in an age of biology. And the three trends, firstly, are the cost of sequencing the human genome. I know the audience here knows all about this, how the cost of sequencing the human genome is decreasing at an exponential rate and getting cheaper and cheaper all the time. So the first macro trend is our ability to read the code of life is getting cheaper and cheaper all the time. Next slide. The third macro trend is artificial intelligence and machine learning. What's happening in the artificial intelligence industry? Our ability to make sense of all this data is increasing again at an exponential rate. Next slide, please. And the third macro trend is the invention of of gene editing techniques like CRISPR. This slide just demonstrates how more popular CRISPR is becoming. So the first trend is we're able to now read the code of life at a very, very cheap price. We're now able to understand it far better than we ever before, and we're now also able to make changes to it. Next slide. And what we are seeing is we're seeing an environment where it is reminiscent of the 1980s, of the beginning of the software revolution. It's now possible to build a biotech company on the scale of software companies. So the opportunity really is immense. Next slide, please. And we can see this in the investment capital that is going into biotech and also Synbio deals. This is a graph of investment specifically in the US. It's a little bit old now, and it's only increased over the last few years, especially with what's been happening in the pandemic. Next slide, please. So biotech used to be the domain of large agricultural pharmaceutical companies. Next slide, please. And it's now becoming far more the domain of startup companies. Well, it's obviously still a large pharmaceutical and agricultural companies playing in the space, but you're now seeing companies going from day one to 10 years later being valued at over $1 million. And this is a slide of startup companies that are less than 10 years old. Ginkgo Bioworks just listed on the NASDAQ, I think for about $16 billion. Impossible Foods has raised in total about $1.5 billion. Upside Foods, which is a food that's playing in the future of food space, making cultivated meat. Bulk Threads is a Synbio company that is making interesting materials using precision fermentation. And then Twist Biosciences is also doing some really, really interesting stuff with DNA. Next slide, please. So is it possible, the question here, is it possible to build a successful biotech company in Africa? Next slide. Next slide, please. Well, there's an example based in South Africa of a company called Kappa Biosystems. Next slide, please. They were founded in Cape Town in 2006 by 4 individuals, financed partly by a South African government agency, which is now called the Technology Innovation Agency, with about $1.7 million, and sold to Roche Pharmaceuticals in 2015 for $445 million. What their offering was they created unique enzymes used in lab consumables to sequence DNA. So this is a locally grown African company that had a massive exit internationally. So the next question is why has there only been one very large African biotech exit? Next slide, please. And part of it has got to do with the ecosystem and development around the ecosystem. So we have on the continent good research universities. We then have people that understand business, and then we have people that understand investment. But in most instances, these really come together. Next slide, please. So what we're doing at OneBio, we're trying to build a platform that brings these skills together. Next slide, please. And part of that ecosystem development that we've done here in South Africa is we run business incubation programs with a partner of ours, training life scientists what it means to be entrepreneurs and to build businesses, building up the business skills of life scientists. We also have, with a partner, built Africa's first co-working lab facility. If you go to Boston or San Francisco or London or Tel Aviv, you have these infrastructure plays whereby life science entrepreneurs are able to go out from their universities, go work in an independent area, be able to tinker, play, and build biotech or Synbio sort of proofs of concepts. The other intervention we have done here is to raise an investment fund, and this is what we spend our time at doing. So what is our mandate? Well, we make investments, seed investments in South African and African biotech and Synbio companies, really across the board, from companies playing in the healthcare, the agricultural, the materials, industrial, the food, or the consumer biology spaces. We're particularly interested in companies that are focused on African genomics, focused on building up data, understanding the value of the diversity that sits within the African genome. We invest in Synbio companies engineering biology to produce materials, proteins, biological tools. We're interested in the microbiome. It could be related to the skin, the gut, the skin, the soil, any sort of microbiome-related solutions. The future of food is also a very exciting space, cell-based, agriculture or plant-based, and then kind of bioinformatics, data science, AI, ML type of players. Really the sweet spot here is where you have work done in the lab converging with work done with data. Next slide, please. So how do we invest as a venture capitalist? Well, we invest in startups that come directly to us with a fully formed team and a fully formed idea, and we'll make a normal venture capital type of investment. And we also venture build. So we come up with ideas internally within the OneBio Venture Studio, bring in a team to help us build it out, and then spin the company out in that manner. Next slide, please. So what is the typical type of investment we would make at OneBio? Well, we typically will take a minority stake in companies, anything from between $70,000 to up to about $1 million. The investments are normally done in tranches based on defined milestones, technical and commercial milestones. In most instances, we'd like to take a board seat on the companies, and then we work intimately with the entrepreneurs to help them to build out their startups and also to connect them with the greater ecosystem. So far, we have done a total of 5 investments. We've invested into a biometric company called LifeQ. We've made an investment in a company called BixBio, which is a bioinformatics company. We are busy making an investment in a company called Pandora Biosciences that are looking to reimagine drug discovery. And then we've made 2 investments in 2 Synbio companies. One of them, MookX, and our entrepreneur is sitting with you, Thomas, in the audience there today. And we've also invested in a company called Sabona Mycelium that are building out a fermentation platform. Next slide, please. So what are the factors we look for when we're looking for investees, when we're looking to invest in entrepreneurs? Well, the aptitudes of the founders is very, very important. Why do the founders want to solve the particular problem they're solving? What is their motivations? What have they done in the past? But it's critically really to understand the entrepreneur. The companies or the solutions that they are proposing need to have biology at their core. The problems we like to invest in are really, really hard problems, difficult to solve, audacious, world-changing, and critically they need to be scalable. We like to invest in companies that have a competitive advantage by being based here in Africa. And then again, data is a really key part of building out solutions. Next slide, please. So that's my short talk for the day. My contact details are on the bottom. I think happy to now open the floor for any questions.